Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. This is your host Dave Trumbore wishing you a happy 2015, Happy New Year everybody, and thanks for coming back and listening to us. Joining me, as always, is Sean Paul Ellis. How are you today, sir?
David, I'm doing well. How about
I'm
yourself?
doing great, buddy. How was your New Year's Eve? How's your New
It
Year
was,
going so far?
it was. I had a fantastic New Year's Eve. Thank you, honk honk, and yeah, it was great, man.
I
How
feel like
about
we need to
yourself?
we need to bring in like those bicycle horns back into vogue from 15 years ago. Oh boy.
uh,
Yeah, mine was good. It was pretty chill. Just kind of hung out, saw some friends, had some good food. Watched the. I didn't get to watch the possum ball drop, unfortunately. Hat tip to Josh Stankus out there. Didn't get to see the possum ball drop. Sorry, sorry about that. But yeah, we got a peach drop here in Georgia, down here in Atlanta.
oh
It's
wow.
a big old peach that looks like a butt, and it's up on a pole and it drops down. So it's real fun for the kids.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
good
good.
time. Did you have any interesting drinks over the New Year's festivities?
I was at a friend's house that he has a bar in his basement. Hat tip to Greg Chesterton,
Very nice.
and Greg was serving up a Port City
Ooh,
essential pale ale the
a
entire
local
night.
brew. A local brew. I
Yes,
like it.
very local.
Yet
Very
another
wonderful.
hat tip to those folks over there.
Had to. I feel like we're just gonna. I feel like this is becoming slowly like just a podcast of us being like, "So what'd you drink this weekend,
Yeah,
Dave?"
slowly. Just eventually it'll be halfway and then just 100%. We've done a hat tip hat trick so far, by the way.
I know.
Yeah, that's
Gosh,
pretty good. That's a record.
you're
It's
doing
one for
well.
the ages.
Mm.
You drinking anything good tonight, by the way? That was my segue into that.
I am. I am drinking a Anderson Valley. It's their Kimmy the Yink and
Are you
the Holy
serious?
Goza.
So Sean
Yeah.
told me about this one a little while ago. I've been like bending over backwards to try to find it around here. It's around here somewhere. I just have to get to it. But yeah, why don't you tell the folks what the hell that crazy name drink is about? Is about? What's
It's
that drink
about.
about,
What's that
Sean?
drink about?
Oh my God.
It's a very older, I believe, German style.
Mm.
It's tart and refreshing.
That's all you need to know. Tart and refreshing.
Tart and refreshing. So I'm
Mm.
looking forward. David, what are you drinking tonight?
Oh, buddy, I'm enjoying a wintry brew. It is Leinenkugel's Snowdrift Vanilla Porter. Now, I tried something silly, listeners. I got it in my head from this podcast that I listened to that the old-timey folk used to like to drink their ale at like coffee temperature, so pretty friggin' hot. So I gave that a shot. I do not recommend it. I especially do not recommend it with this particular brew, which is delightful otherwise. I'm enjoying it right now. It is good at room temperature or cold. I'm a fan of the porters and the stouts and the darker brews, so this is a good time of year for those. So yeah, Leinenkugels, funny name, tasty beer. I don't think that's their slogan, but it should be. It
It
definitely
should
should
be.
be.
It
Yeah,
really should
it
be.
is now. Hat tip to Leinenkugels.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, guess what
Uh,
has nothing to do with beer?
the fact that we are starting off our January Nicktoons month.
Yeah, New Year's Nicktoons. Good
New Year's
times
Nicktoons.
all around.
Mm.
We actually, I don't know if we really talked about how we were going to start this off because we just kind of looked at the original ones and they all started like the same time, the same day. They all debuted on the same day.
Yeah,
So,
I mean the original three
yeah.
did.
Do you know if like
So
this was the order that we're doing them in? Do you know if that was the order of like their actual airing or just the order that's
uh,
online?
I believe we're very close. Yes.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean
so.
I know that Doug came on at 10 o'clock
Okay.
Eastern, followed by Rugrats, followed by Ren and Stimpy at
Okay.
11.
So that's the order we'll be doing it in. So that actually makes a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
sense. Yeah. So yeah, if you follow that logic, we're going to be talking about Doug today. Honk honk. Yeah, good
Oh
stuff.
man. Uh, Jeez. I did you watch this show, Dave?
Oh, I love this show.
When
Yeah.
it
I
was
remember
on?
watching this show. I mean, I pretty much watched all the ones that we're going to talk about. It wasn't until later on, like Nicktoons were a staple for me growing up. Like, it wasn't until the later episodes when I was a little older um, that I stopped watching. Kind of like I think it was like the Rocket. What was it? Rocket Team Rocket
It
or
was like
something like
Team
that.
Rocket, yeah.
That's from Pokemon, I think, but it's something like that. Yeah, yeah. But I stopped watching around. I don't know. My brother watched stuff like the Wild Thornberries and Team Rocket or whatever it was, and all that, and I just kind of watched it with him, but not, not like Doug and Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy and Real Monsters and Rocco, and I love that stuff, man. So this is gonna be a fun month to talk about this.
Yeah.
What about
No,
you?
I'm
I
excited.
mean,
Yeah, I mean, I did too. I think I have some of my fondest memories. Like growing up, like my parents divorced like when I was
mhm.
when I was very young, and so I would spend a lot of weekends with my dad, and him doing like the whole weekend warrior thing, and um, it was just it was cool because I have very fond memories of waking up like Sunday mornings, hanging out with my dad and my sister,
Yeah.
and like sitting down at 10 o'clock and watching like 90 minutes worth of cartoons that like everybody was involved in, and it was also, I mean, there was nothing that came across in this show that wasn't family friendly or family oriented.
Right.
So, I mean, like you could sit down with, I think I was maybe, um,
You were probably
I don't
what,
know, I
10
think
or
I was
11 when it came out?
I was around 10,
Yeah.
10, 11, like when this came out. And so like, it was just good, like, because this came out in 91,
Hmm.
was the original airing. So I would have been 11 years old. So, I mean, just to be able to share something like that with, like with your sister, your
Yeah.
dad, like it was just a lot of fun.
Well, hey,
So
guess what? Doug, the character himself, was actually 11 years old too, so that was right, it was
I
aimed
know, I
directly at
know.
you.
I really like because I have some interesting questions about this show
Hmm.
later for later in the episode, but I mean it was definitely like there were definitely a lot of things that really like hit home at that time, like watching this show. So
Hmm.
I mean like if anything, it was super relatable for where I was as a human on this planet, like at that at that time.
That's exactly what they were aiming for. Actually,
I
speaking
know.
of that, let's kind of talk about Doug and Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy just briefly as like a real, just general conversation because these are three fairly different cartoons aimed at. I don't know. Rugrats is a tough one to pin down, but I feel like Doug was aimed at people of your age and definitely mine too. I was a little bit younger, but I still loved watching Doug.
Yeah.
Um, Rugrats was a little strange because it was about obviously all these babies, but it was the world of these babies, and they all talked to each other and they could all understand each other, even if the
Right.
parents couldn't do that. So it was kind of weird because it's like, who is this being aimed at? Because I feel like kids, young kids, older kids, and then even adults could find the humor in different things in Rugrats. We'll get into that next week. But then Ren and Stimpy was definitely, they pushed the envelope. It was almost like something you would expect to see on MTV rather than Nickelodeon at the time. I feel like
Yeah.
that one drew a lot of attention, a lot of negative attention. So that'll be a fun one to talk about in a couple weeks. But
Right.
yeah, anything to add, kind of just like from an overall picture?
Not from like an overall picture,
Hmm.
but I guess just from like a personal like story for this. Like I remember there was a lot of times that like I felt like Doug and Rugrats continually produced new episodes, and I feel like for Ren and Stimpy they got stuck in like this maybe like 6 to 8 episode kind of cycle
Oh, really?
where there were like no new Ren and Stimpy episodes, and so like every week I would sit down and kind of like get very excited for a new Ren and Stimpy episode, and it was always the same thing.
Huh. I
And
don't
and
remember
I,
that, but I can.
and I just like and like it became one of those things that, like my dad got just as excited about it as I did, and so like every week like he was like he was really kind of pumped. He's just like, oh man, I hope it's a new episode. Like I hope we get something new. And I'm just like, me too, Dad. And it just didn't happen. But like he got so enthusiastic and excited about this, like even more so than I did. For these new episodes, and we just watched the same Ren and Stimpy episodes every single week
It's
for
basically like being
like
a
2.5, 3 years.
It's like being a fan of like a terrible sports team, and you're just like, you don't want to be a fan of them anymore, but you love them so much. So you just come back at the beginning of each season. You're just like, maybe this year it'll be different. Maybe this year we'll go all the way, and then it's always the same old crap. Uh,
It's really like rooting for the Eagles.
Oof, the
Ooh,
Eagles.
yeah, I said it.
I wasn't even going to call the team out, the Cleveland Browns. I wasn't going to call anybody out, but I mean, there it is. So I don't know. But yeah,
Uh,
we're going to talk Doug today. Doug's going to kick off
oh
our
my
New Year's
gosh.
Nicktoons.
Oh God.
Do you want to take the history of this, or do you want me to give
Yeah,
mine a shot?
absolutely.
Go for it.
So I mean, Doug is an American animated sitcom. It was created by Jim Jenkins. He created and developed this idea from like a bunch of like sketches that he had created over the course of like the 80s. And it was very interesting, kind of going back and looking at the history. I did not realize that this was autobiographical
Yeah.
about Jim Jenkins's life. And so he grew up in Virginia, which is a wonderful state if you've never been there before. I'm slightly biased, and so a lot of these characters, were based on people that he knew growing up. that he had interactions with. And so originally it was developed to be a children's
Hmm.
book, and nobody was interested in it
Yeah.
until Nickelodeon purchased it. Um, and so it was just it landed in sort of the iteration that we saw that premiered in 1991. Alongside, as we mentioned, Rugrats and Ren and
Right.
Stimpy. Uh, the series consisted of 4 seasons and it had 52 episodes, and so that was from the 91 to 94 time frame, which is reasonable and respectable
Yes.
based on all the other shows that we've
Yes.
watched,
Thank
which are
you
just
for
like
being
one season, 1,000
65
episodes,
episodes, which is great. I mean, it's
65
like
episodes.
13 episodes a year, respectable. They actually aired them once a week instead of once a day during
Yeah,
the week, and you could tell because the quality was there. Maybe not the quality of like the artwork itself, because they have a weird kind of like sketchbook style that they probably kept from his original drawings, but the quality
sure.
of the storytelling was there, which I appreciated.
Yes.
But we'll get into that.
And so it was so I was reminded about
Hmm.
this earlier today actually, um, when somebody had mentioned to me if I remembered whether or not the point in time when Disney acquired the
Right.
rights to Doug and started premiering new episodes. And so I don't remember. Like I remember this a little bit, but I don't. I'm not really. I feel bad because I'm not really super hip on this Disney Doug, and maybe we'll have to go back and we'll watch Disney Doug at a later point in time. But we are really just focusing on the original Nicktoons Doug that premiered for those first 4 seasons. And I also want to recommend, or just mention, I don't think we talked about this earlier,
What's
Dave,
up?
is that if you are an Amazon Prime member,
Yes.
you can watch the first 4 seasons of Doug as a part for free as a part of your Prime membership. I feel like we're hawking Amazon, but I mean honestly,
Dude,
like
hey, look, I
if
pay
you're
for
not
the
if you're not a
service, so
Prime,
it's not like they're paying
yeah,
me.
if you're not an Amazon Prime member, like I don't know what you're doing. Like it's a wonderful service. Just
Dude,
subscribe.
it pays for itself. I don't know how many times over. But
Yeah,
yeah,
God.
brought to you
So
by Amazon.com. Not really. I wish.
But they also have for all the cartoons that we're going to be
Yeah, all the
talking about
Nicktoons.
during Nicktoons January. They are all available on there. So Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, Ah Real Monsters, and Rocko's Modern Life are all up there with multiple seasons. I think all 8 seasons of Rocko's Modern Life is available,
That is going to be
which
a
is
time sink for me because I remember loving that show. It is just so
God,
bizarre
I
and just
know.
so unique.
But
But yeah,
But I mean, to kind of go with this, when it premiered on Disney, they put it on ABC's Saturday
right.
morning. So I mean, this was a Sunday morning cartoon, but this transitioned over to being a Saturday morning cartoon at some point. Um, they had a lot of merchandise that kind of came out of this show, and everything I guess kind of came to a conclusion with Doug's first movie. Now I don't know if if they called it Doug's first movie with the idea that there would be a Doug's second movie. There was not. It began and ended with or the theatrical endeavors of Doug began and ended with Doug's first movie,
Did you watch it?
which is I didn't. It's available as well. I think the thing that's challenging for me to before we kind of dig into the synopsis of the show
Hmm.
is that like I really there was such a drastic change in animation style between the original Nickelodeon and Disney, as well as also in the voice actors
Yeah, I
too.
remember the voice actor being like a bit of a controversy, and we can talk about them once we get into the
Right.
characters too. But I don't remember so much the animation style because I honestly don't think I watched the Disney version. I can't remember it. So if it was that different, I don't remember watching Disney at all.
I think I watched like a couple episodes and I kind of just like I don't know that I wasn't loving it or I just didn't like the changes or maybe I think I was 16 or 17 at that point. Maybe I was
Yeah,
so
might have just outgrew it.
sarcastic and ironically detached at that point that I was just like no, it's just not for me. Um, but yeah, I don't remember too much about it myself, so I'm curious to go back and watch that as well. But I mean, that's the history for the show. Dave, you wanna kind of sum this up
Yeah,
in
sure.
in 3 words?
3 words? No. I'm just going to read directly from the paragraph from Wikipedia because that's much easier. We're going to talk about a few of the episodes from the show anyway, so we're going to go over kind of like the common themes that you see, maybe compared to some other shows we've talked about here on Saturday Morning Cartoons. But basically, we have Doug, a show focused on an early adolescent life of its title character, Douglas Doug Funny, who experiences common predicaments while attending school in his new hometown of Bluffington. Doug narrates each story in his journal, and the show incorporates many imagination sequences. The series addresses numerous topics, including trying to fit in, platonic and romantic relationships, self esteem, bullying, and rumors. Numerous episodes center on Doug's attempts to impress his classmate and crush, the best name ever, Patti Mayonnaise.
Patty Mayonnaise.
Patti Mayonnaise. What was the chick from the Wonder Years? What was her name?
Winnie Cooper?
Winnie Cooper. I feel like Winnie Cooper, Patti Mayonnaise, Topanga, whatever her last name was.
I think it's just Topanga.
Just Topanga. She's just a one
Just
named.
Topanga.
I feel like those are some of the best like crush names in the history of television, animated or
Yeah.
otherwise.
Mm.
Patti Mayonnaise. I don't know where to go from there. Here's where we're gonna go. We're gonna talk intro theme song because I'm curious to see how this fits in with your theory, since there are no real words to it.
Yeah, it was I was curious like this theme song, I didn't remember it and then I put it
Oh yeah,
on
instant
and
recognition.
it was like instant nostalgia. Like it is beautiful. It is so wonderful and I don't know what it was. It's very simple and it's done sort of with like a scatting.
Yeah,
Like is that what it was?
yeah, a
Like
little bit
it
of
was
it.
just
Yeah.
sort of um but I mean it was like it was so simple in nature and it sort of introduced at least I guess in a non-visual medium some of the character traits that you would see. Like, you notice that like, obviously Doug and Porkchop are going to be the stars of the show.
Well, explain how they
Followed by
come onto the screen though too, because it's not like we've talked about the different styles of intros before. It's not a clip montage. It's not a mini movie
it's not
introduction. It's not a
yeah,
hybrid
it's not a,
anything.
it's not a hybrid.
It's
So I
completely
mean,
original and all its own, and I thought it
yes.
was really cool.
And it is. It's if you're looking for like a great intro, this is like a prime example because like they intended to make it
Hmm.
catchy and fun, and it was something where like to jump kind of in like Doug's like big thing is like he's always writing in a
Right.
journal. Like he's always consistently writing in a journal. That's pretty much how every single episode starts out. Um, and so like it's kind of like a pencil drawing a line kind of like across journal
Right.
paper and it's Doug lifting up that line and kind of emerging from back behind it. And so like I don't know if it's sort of like breaking the fourth wall or just showing like sort of general playfulness like of Doug and like the characters that you're going to be looking at. But I mean it's I remember like as I watched it earlier I was just like, oh my god, like I
It's just
I don't
cool. It
know.
grabs your attention. It's something different. I feel like I'd love to get a look at Jenkins' sketchbooks because I feel like he probably pulled a lot of that stuff just from his actual sketches. Like he probably sketched himself, sketching himself, one of those types of things where you like
Right.
just sketch, sketch the sketch artist. He was like hugely involved with this show. It wasn't like he just sold the characters and the idea. He went through with Nickelodeon and he was like, the story has to have a purpose. It's got to have a reason. Um, and he was just like intricately involved with every detail of it. There is a
Very big on like introducing like
oh
morals
yeah,
or like some sense of a story into a lot of these, which I don't remember like really paying attention to them like when I watched the show originally, but like now going back I was like, oh my god, like he's wrapping up everything with a nice neat
yeah, but
bow.
it was subtle enough that it wasn't just like the big moral stand at the end of like a Thundercats episode or a GI Joe episode with a PSA about like not doing drugs. It was at least folded into the story itself, so it came
Yeah,
about in
I
like a
mean,
character interaction or a moment of dialogue or an action that they did. It wasn't just okay, that was a fun episode. Let's tell you what not to do and what to do correctly. So it was well
yeah, I
done.
mean that I thought that was a risky choice, like that they had like a lot of episodes where Doug was just like, yeah, you should do drugs, like why not?
Yeah, that was a little strange. I mean, Pork Chop the
Yeah, I mean
Pusher.
kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, converse to like all those GI Joe and like Brave Star PSAs.
Oh
Like
my
these were
god.
just like Doug was like, "Yeah, I'm going to see the Beats." He's like, "Oh my God." Roger's like, "Let's just drop acid."
It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, all right, why
And then
not?
the rest of the show is just their acid trip. It's
Oh
pretty
my God,
accurate.
kids, don't guy people listening, don't do drugs. Don't do
I'm
drugs
not.
at
I'm
all.
gonna. I'll tell you this. This is my New Year's gift to you. I'm not gonna tell people to do drugs yet. I'm gonna hold off in 2015. Uh,
I don't want you to do it just for liability
I
reasons. I don't want
know.
anybody to
Now that
listen
we're
to this and just
huge.
be like,
Back in the day when no one listened to us, it was perfectly fine.
right.
But now that we're
I just don't want
huge,
anybody to like listen to Dave and just be like, you know what? Dave's a good role model.
I'll do all the drugs.
I'll just do a bunch of crystal twists.
Oh boy. and spin. Oh man,
Oh man. So, did we just sync up "Oh man" at the same
I
time?
hope so.
Oh my
I
god.
hope we did.
Get out of my head.
And into my
So,
car. Close enough.
oh my god, that was
Good
perfect.
times. So speaking of
Well, that's the
unusual, speaking
podcast.
of unusual music, you mentioned like scatting before for this theme song.
Yes.
I love this quote that I pulled from Wikipedia. It just says after talking about how like involved Jenkins is, it says this show's unusual soundtrack consists largely of mouth noises, which I love that description. There's
Mouth.
just mouth noises. It's not nothing technical like scatting or beatboxing or anything like that. It's just like no, it's mouth noises. So yes, you too can make your own Doug soundtrack in your very own home with mouth
Bow,
noises.
bow, down, bow, 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 bow.
Yeah, that's
It
pretty
was
much all it
like,
was. It was just kind of like a
yeah,
beatnik kind of style to it, but then a little bit of brass came in, and it was fun. It introduces the characters as they kind of like walk across the page, and they're either doing like a tightrope line kind of thing across like a marker line, or they're peeling
yeah.
parts of the page back and coming in or running out, or it was a lot of cool stuff. And it was a great way to introduce, at least visually, the different characters. Which, well, before we get into them, how does this intro feed back into your theory about telling you in a condensed version what the show is going to be about?
I mean, I think it's very hard. I
Hmm.
mean, I think that this might be like an outlier
Hmm.
in terms of, how we would, or how I've been trying to kind of define a lot of this stuff. I mean, like, again, like I know I keep hitting on like theme for a lot of these things,
Right.
but I mean it gives you a good introduction because I mean like you see very early on that it looks like some of the characters like Roger Klotz, like you can tell that he's
Yes.
kind of like you can tell that he's a bully
Yeah.
in this. Like you can tell that like Patty Mayonnaise is sort of like the like he's looking for her affection
Right.
that like he has like some type of you know he has feelings for her. Like you can tell that like Skeeter is gonna be kind of like the goofball, like with him like swinging on that line and
Yeah.
like
Smashing into the
face,
screen.
face planting into the screen. And so I mean, like you kind of get an idea, of like these main characters that are gonna be in the show and sort of like a little bit of the personality. But in terms of like what we've mentioned about like uh, describing the idea
Hmm.
or
Yeah. The plot
describing the
or whatever.
show,
Right.
yeah, the plot, like it doesn't really do that. It really just gives you sort of the umbrella idea of who these characters are going to be
Yeah.
and how they're going to, personality wise, how they're going to interact with Doug throughout the show.
Yeah, and the tone I think too, because it's very playful, very imaginative, and
Yeah,
very colorful. So colorful, in fact, that you also find out that everybody in Bluffington has a radioactive skin and hair condition. Um,
yeah.
I don't
What
know
is going on
I don't
there?
know. Like the Simpsons, I thought
I,
were bad enough with their jaundiced skin. I This place, everybody's you're either electric blue. Doug's like the only kind of flesh colored character, and even his parents are
I
like
guess
weirdly colored.
like I mean I've looked at pictures of Jim Jenkins and like dude's got like a full head of hair.
Yeah, not like
He's
Doug's
got
got
like
like
a
a Charlie
silver
Brown thing going on. Right?
yeah, he's got like a silver fox kind of thing going on, and it looks like Dave just has, or I'm sorry, yeah, Dave.
Wow.
It looks like yeah, I know. I I
Just slip me
inserted
right
you
in
in
there.
every
Apparently,
facet of
I need to go check my hairline now, folks. I'll be back in a minute.
you should, buddy.
Oh no.
But
Plugs
like
for Dave.
everybody, like Doug in this show has just like these like just like wavy like just it looks like he has like onset male pattern baldness
Yeah, at
and
the
just
age of
has like
11.
these like yeah at the age of 11 and a half and like just has like terrible hair or just a complete lack of hair, and then you look at Roger and he's got like one tuft of like sharp pointy hair
Yeah.
like red
Bright
sharp pointy
orange,
hair
red.
off
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
side, and then he's got like another like patch next to it of just like thin disgusting Doug hair like
I love the
you know
shave marks on his head though, because they remind you
yeah
that he just shaves his
yeah
three
I know.
quarters of his head.
I mean I Skeeter had like that kind of like
He had Doug hair
wispy
too.
he had wispy like post chemo hair as well,
Oh
and
boy.
then shut up, and
Oh,
then like and
jeez.
then like
Well, he's not looking real good
Patty's
because
got like
he's
a
Skeeter's
yeah, he's-
electric blue. We need to focus on that for a second, because and
yeah.
Doug's neighbors, the Dinks, are like both eggplant purple. It's a
Like
very
yeah they
strange,
are.
strange town. But yeah, Patty Mayonnaise. Back to her.
But Patty Mayonnaise has got like this like full her and BB
Hmm.
both have like full luscious heads of hair. Like
Well, they're
all
the
the, I feel like
ladies.
I
Look
feel
at
like the
look at
women on
Peanuts.
this show.
Same thing with Peanuts. All
Yeah,
the ball-headed kids all had little weird little tufts of hair. Charlie Brown had that little curly cue, but all the ladies
yeah.
had full helmets of hair. It's pretty good.
I don't know. I just like it was like looking back at it now. Like I looked at it like I focused on his hair a
Yeah,
lot.
it's
It
real
was just
strange.
it was so like spindly and like like if you like like if you go like we all had siblings, or
Hmm.
I mean a lot of people have had siblings, whatever. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like
People
if
who
you go
have
back home,
siblings. Yeah.
people, if you have a sibling and like you have like a like I have a sister, and like there are tons and tons of like dolls that she has from like when she was much younger, and like she brushed the shit out of those dolls to the point where like there's not a lot of hair left
Right.
on those dolls, and that's what Doug's head looks like.
Yeah, it looks like just a bristle brush resting on top of a pair of eyes. Like there's
It
not
just
much to it.
it looks like if you shaved an armpit.
Ooh, yeah, I guess it kind
Like,
of does.
it
I
looks like
had
a
a.
shit.
Do you remember My Buddy? This is going to be a
Oh
toy
God,
segue.
yeah,
I had a
yeah.
My Buddy doll as a little kid. I tried giving it a haircut one time, and obviously it didn't grow back. That thing looks terrifying now
Mistake.
because he's just got like half a buzz cut until my parents caught me. So he's just got like these weird little like holes in his head, and then like a little bit of
Oh
close
no.
cropped hair, and then long flowing mullet. It's the creepiest doll you'll ever see.
Oh God,
Yep.
that's horrifying.
Well, that's why I'm no longer a beautician, a hair
I mean,
cutterist.
that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah,
That
it
makes
does.
total sense.
Hmm. Among other
I mean,
things.
to be honest though, when you gave me a haircut, you did a great job with it.
Oh my
So
God, I really, this isn't neither the time nor place to share John Helter's barbershop stories, but hat tip to John Helter's barbershop.
yeah, boy.
Ooh, so yeah, let's get into these
All right.
characters a little bit more. I mean, we've talked about Doug. We can probably talk about him a little bit more as far as like his family and maybe even in the context of the first episode where he moves
Right.
into town.
Yeah.
You want to talk about his family a little
I
bit?
I mean, yes, like his dad's a
Hmm.
photographer. Like his mother is she a stay-at-home mom, or is she just kind of like she seemed very I got a very hippie vibe from her.
Yeah, she did kind of seem like
Or
that, but I mean, the daughter was kind of the beatnik too, so I don't know
well, I mean, the daughter
where
was
that
like
came from.
Judy was like she was into theater. She was very
Right,
theatrical.
right.
And so I mean, I guess I don't look at theater, having been somebody who's done a lot of theater. I don't look at that as like sort of like new age or hippie-ish. Like she was a thespian, I
Right.
guess you would say.
Sure.
And so the mom kind of had like this sort of like new age, like kind of herbal granola feel to her, which I mean, like each member of this family has like their own distinct thing that they're going for. They have their own specific vibe. So that was cool.
Yeah, there was
Like,
Phil Funny, that was the dad, and he was
yeah.
hold on a second. I'm just looking up his character bio, and it says Doug, Judy, and Dirt Bike's father. I don't know who Dirt Bike is. I'm assuming he came up later in the Disney version because that sounds like a terrible Disney name.
Yikes.
But yeah, so he's a photographer, and then Theda, Theda, Theda Funny. Mother, generally portrayed as a housewife, sometimes a working mother too. She manages the Deja Vu Recycling Center. And this is a great quote. Her skin is slightly brighter than Doug's. So there you go.
Oh, nailed it. Nailed
Nailed
it.
it. She's an outgoing environmentalist. So I don't know. She apparently works at a recycling plant
All
sometimes.
right.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that's Nickelodeon or Disney, but there you go.
that makes
So
sense.
that's her. And we spend a little
So,
bit of time with the family. I mean, they're not just like introduced and then tossed aside. Like he'll check in with them every once in a while, but we don't. There are episodes where we spend more time with them, or he gets in trouble, or they have a moral lesson to tell him at the end of the story. And there's other episodes where they're just kind of there and they're just like, "Oh, hey, Doug," and that's it. So it's kind of nice. It
yeah,
was kind of like realistic in that way that they
yeah.
weren't.
I mean, I think that that's like the hallmark of like a good show in the sense is that like they're not looking to include every character at every moment.
Right.
Like they're looking to be able to use them, I mean, when necessary or at least when appropriate.
Right.
I mean, like a lot of shows will try to like interject every single character all the time, like nonstop. But I mean, like those characters have their own lives. I mean, like if you think about it, like in terms of like the universe that they built,
Hmm.
like in this town, like everybody has their own thing. Like everybody in Bluffington has their own thing that they're doing, and they're not stopping just to like,
check in on Doug. Yeah.
focus on Doug all the time. Like, so I mean, you're right. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, and then, honestly, they do that with all the characters. Like, characters will
Right.
come in and out of frame and just kind of like say hi, or invite them over to something later, or just very. It was very like realistic for as imaginative and as kind of like this cartoon takes a lot of sidebars into Doug's imagination, but for the part where he stays in the real world is actually fairly realistically portrayed. Aside from the electric blue skin and the terrible hair and things like that, the interactions are actually fairly well done.
Well, I
So
mean, like Doug, here's like the funny thing for me was that like Doug, his standard wardrobe
yeah,
is like a white undershirt, a green sweater vest, and like just khaki
just
shorts.
khaki shorts and big old honking shoes.
Khaki shorts and big old honking shoes. And like I I know I know that when I was in high school
Mhm.
for like my junior and senior year, I wore a lot of sweater vests. And I don't know if that was influenced by my love of
A
Doug
hundred
at that
percent
point.
had to be.
Like I don't know if it was like a subliminal thing where
Did
I
you
was
go to
just like,
preparatory school or anything?
what? No, I went to public
Just
school.
public school? Then yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have gone to my school wearing a sweater vest. I think I'd have been dead by now. I'd have been in a ditch near the highway somewhere. I would have been on
I like.
next year's episode of Serial. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yep.
I like that I'm laughing at the fact that you would have died if you wore a sweater
Hey,
vest.
I'm
But
laughing too because
no,
it's
I mean,
100%
whatever.
true. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, I wore them and I got picked on all the time.
I
But
got you. I got
I
you. By
mean,
Roger Klotz.
yeah, by Roger
Oh
Klotz.
man, what a character this guy
So
is.
I wanna know like if you could sum up Doug Yancey Funny
hmm
in one word, how would you describe him?
Mm,
Because my
can I sum him up in like one name
well, no, I
instead of
mean
one
like
word?
I mean like you can, but I'm gonna share mine first. Like
Okay,
if I had to describe him
go ahead.
in one, I would say impressionable.
He's an impressionable youth.
Yes.
I would have said Woody Allen
Okay.
because he's kind of quirky. He's real awkward with the ladies. I don't think he's Jewish, but we don't know.
Yeah, I mean there's no religious
No, I don't think so. Maybe in later episodes once Disney gets a hold
assignment.
of it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No. Then he's very Catholic from that point.
he's, he's devout. Um, yeah, I don't know because he's quirky, he's awkward, but people they like him. They don't necessarily know why they like him. He's just like a friendly guy, and they kind of like him. But he can be awkward socially and otherwise. But I just love how he goes through kind of his adolescence. Like I feel like all of us do. There's always that kind of like second guessing of yourself, and then you get oh, I don't know, if somebody says you have a big nose and you get like obsessed about that for a while and it's like the worst possible thing, it's the end of your world. Um, so he has a lot of that going for him. It actually reminded me of Pepper Ann when I mentioned earlier that we were
It
gonna,
did. It
yeah,
did.
it reminded me of Pepper Ann, and I feel like
Yeah.
those two would have got along pretty well together, or not,
I
well
feel
at
like
all.
I feel like if Pepper Ann and Doug
Mhm.
like existed in like the same universe, like they would have dated or they just would have like
Awkwardly,
they just would have been so like Pepper Ann would have been the aggressor in the relationship, and
oh
Doug
yeah,
would have just been like, okay, you know, I
and then write
just
about it in his journal,
write about it. He's write about it in his live journal.
his life journal.
Eventually, it just turns into a live journal entry. Yikes.
Yeah, yeah. I
So,
don't know if you could bring Doug back today. I feel like those two, they existed in their own times. Doug and Pepper Ann. I feel like
well,
they
I mean, like,
existed. They were done. It's over.
I feel like I feel like the reason that Doug was so successful is the reason that like when you in that moment like living in the
hmm
90s and like really being born in the 80s and growing up and like really kind of growing up and coming to your own
Right.
in the 90s, the reason that that's so relatable is the same reason that like when you watch like Freaks and Geeks
Right.
and it has that like kind of 80s 90s vibe to it, you're just like, oh yeah, like
This was
this
my
was
life.
this
Yeah.
was this was me like
Yeah.
living during that time. Like this is how I became the person that I am today.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know.
Yep.
So I thought it was just very it was very interesting. Like I guess I don't remember from watching it like I remember like very distinct pieces of Doug
hmm
as a show, but I don't remember like a ton of episodes. And so going back and watching this, I was just like, the reason that I felt that he was so impressionable is that there were a lot of times when like the antagonist Roger Klotz,
hmm
like, and we can get into Roger, and
Oh,
I
Roger.
mean, he really is the antagonist. Like he really kind of just
He
He
just
picks
stirs
on
up trouble and picks on
picks
Doug
on
because he's the
Doug.
new guy and it's easy and it's fun for him. Yeah.
And so like he just gives him a hard time, and and pretty much whatever Roger says, Doug takes it as like at face value, and accepts it as truth.
Right.
And like half the time, majority of these episodes could have been over in like 2 minutes.
If he
Like
just
if Doug,
ignored Roger, yeah.
yeah, if he just ignored Roger, or went to the source. Like there was the episode where like they have the science
Right.
fair, and
Doug
and
gets busted.
Roger
Yeah.
Roger tells Doug that he burned down like the science lab with his volcano.
Exactly.
Instead of Doug like fact checking all of this, he decides to go on the lam
Yeah.
and like
Just run away from home.
yeah, and just
Sort
runs away
of.
from
Until he
home.
gets
And
hungry.
kinda. And so like I mean like it was I mean, this was one example, but there are multiple times where where Roger just constantly picks on Doug, and Doug is just such a I don't know if he's being a good sport about it or if he just doesn't realize that like Roger's being a total asshole, but he just kind of like he's just kind of like, I mean, a lot of the times I think I wrote down the let me see if I wrote down the quote. He just goes, "Very funny,
Yeah, but
Roger,"
then you can
and
tell
like
that it like sinks in and it's like in his psyche
yeah.
now and it's bothering him. It's like festering.
Yeah, but and that's like how he deals with it is just to be like very funny, Roger, and then he just like sits there and is just like, God,
Oh no. Yeah.
I'm gonna write about this asshole in my
Yeah,
journal.
right. Well, let's
And
go through like the episodes that because I'm just looking at them now. So Sean and I watched the first three episodes. Now the first one has a half an hour all to itself. It's when Doug shows up in Bluffington. The other two are split into two different sort of like 12, 15-minute mini episodes. In every
yes,
single one of these, so in all five, Roger is the antagonist. I don't know how that continues throughout the rest of the series. I don't remember specific moments. There are times where it's just like Doug and Skeeter want to go to a concert or whatever. They want to go
yeah,
to a dance or whatever. But like, okay, in the first episode, Doug bags a nematode. He's a new kid in town. And Roger kind of like takes him in. He's like, "Hey, new guy." He's like, "You can be, you can really get in with the in crowd here if you go after one of these nematodes," which is obviously a made up thing.
it's like did you ever go to like camp?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Okay, like I mean I don't know if it was like a camp thing,
Mm.
but I felt like there was always like maybe one of this like I don't know what you would call it, but a lot of times people called it like a
A
snipe
snipe. Yeah, a
or
snipe hunt.
like something like that.
Right.
Like it, yeah, like a snipe, exactly, a snipe hunt. And so it was like one of those things where it was just like, it's a made up animal that people would tell you that you had to catch, or
Yeah,
they'd
it's just
send
a
you out in the
prank.
woods like late at night. So yeah, exactly. And so a snipe, as we would know it, or snipe hunt as we would know it, became the quest for Doug in this first episode to find a
Yeah,
nematode.
and again, the important part is all because Roger told him to. Like this kid that he
Right.
just met, this kid who obviously looks like he's from the wrong side of the tracks, to hold you, yeah, go bag this nematode, and here's how you do it.
Yeah.
The next episode, he tells him not only that he can't dance and that he looks funny when he dances, then, like Sean mentioned, in the second half of that, he tells him that his science experiment burned down the chemistry lab. So
All right.
he's antagonizing it both times. Now it's funny because Roger usually gets his comeuppance in each and every episode. So something happens to him at the end of the 10 minutes or whatever to make him look
Right.
like an asshole that he is. But he never learns either. So neither Klotz nor Doug are all that smart because they don't
Yeah,
learn from each other.
nobody's really learning.
No.
I mean, like as much as the lessons are interjected into this, I feel like a more appropriate use of the show Doug would be to kind of apply those lessons that Doug was trying or at least attempting to learn. It should be applying them towards making Roger into a better person.
Yeah, they should all have helped him because he runs around with a couple cronies. I think one's named like Stinky. I don't remember all their names, but he runs around with these cronies that they're just kind of his lackeys. But at the same time, they don't really respect him as a leader either. They just kind of hang out with him for fun, and then when he gets in trouble, they just kind of leave him alone, leave him hanging. But
Yeah.
he has an interesting arc that kind of develops later. He has a couple moments where they're actually showing like his vulnerable side. I remember that from a couple, just from memories. I don't remember the specific episodes, but they show something that happens to him where he kind of gets made fun of, and he sees the other side of things, and then they kind of, put their past behind them. But they still have this contentious relationship that kind of continues on, maybe into the Disney
Right.
years. I don't know, but yeah. On the flip side of that, though, well, anything more from Klotz?
No, no. I mean,
Except
I
the
think
fact that
that
he was also voiced by Billy West, who also voiced Doug. for the
Funny.
series,
Yeah.
which is great.
I mean, yeah, which is I can't imagine what that must have been like in terms of just being in like the booth, like recording. They're like, all right, we're gonna record Doug, and then in like 5-10 minutes, we're gonna record you bullying
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. I feel like Billy West though. He's so talented. He could probably just flip back and forth and read them live. Like he could just flip back and
I
forth.
Yeah,
Because he
I
also
wouldn't be
did Ren and
surprised.
Stimpy. He did Ren and
Yes,
Stimpy. So I
yes.
mean, he's got to be fairly
I
well practiced at that. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like I'm just waiting. Like, is there ever like listeners? Has there ever been a cartoon where Billy West just did every voice?
I mean, I've seen him at Comic Cons and some other conventions and stuff, and he'll just run through all the voices he does and just have a conversation with himself. It's the craziest thing because you've got to be a little insane to be able to do that. Not only
That
incredibly
man, that
talented,
man,
but
that man is
insane.
a saint.
He is an insane saint.
He is an insane saint.
Insane saint. But yeah, so flip
Love
side of
it.
Klotz, we got Skeeter Valentine, who probably my second favorite character on this show. I think you know who my first favorite is.
Are
We'll save
you
it.
gonna say? Are you gonna say Principal Butt Savage?
Definitely not, but that's one of the best names on this show. We'll get to that. But yeah, Skeeter Valentine. I think he has a mental issue. He has some mental problems. What do you think?
He's definitely on the spectrum
He's on the
for
spectrum.
autism.
Yep.
I mean, he is all over the place. Like he can't he doesn't seem to really kind of like focus on anything, or when he does focus on something, he does it to like the nth degree
Yeah.
where it's creepy,
Utmost
and
extreme.
you're just like, ooh man, like just knock it down a notch, bud.
Yeah, like if Doug tells him to like stay put and he'll be right back, like Skeeter will literally
Yeah,
just
and just Skeeter,
freeze there for an hour. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
ugh, weird.
I do like when he tried to dance though, and he turned himself into a pretzel. I wish
That was
what we
great. That
should
was
do,
great.
we should have Baron. We should videotape him learning to dance from Skeeter. I feel like
Yes.
he has to do that dance. He'll probably like throw his back
He'll
out
love
or
it.
something. No, he'll throw his damn back out. Get tied up in a knot.
Throws that back out.
Oh boy. But
Oh,
yeah, so Skeeter's the
um,
one that does all the honk honk. He does all the
yeah,
weird mouth noises, as they say. Which I
yeah,
guess that was just a thing, maybe that the voice actor decided to throw in there, Fred Newman. I guess he
yes,
just kind of threw that in there. I don't know, but I think they're great friends. They're like great best friends. They can joke with
yeah.
each other and laugh. They can have tough times and come back and be better. It's a great friendship.
I wrote down the note that I took was that Skeeter is the best friend that everybody wants to
Yeah.
have in their life. Like he really he's there for you every step of the way. Like, and he doesn't like there's no judgment from him. Like he wants to
Just
he
be your
just
friend.
wants you to he want yeah he just wants to be involved, and he wants to just be cool with
Do
it.
you remember how they met? Which I loved. Their kind of meet cute. It wasn't like he saved
Yeah,
him from a
so
bully or this or that. Yeah.
yeah. So episode one,
Right.
they meet in the Honker
The
Burger,
honker burger.
and Doug is attempting. This is what I don't
Okay.
understand is that any fast food restaurant that you go into,
Yeah.
especially Honker
Yeah.
Burger, they have a fucking menu up there
Well,
that says like, this is the shit that we have. Like, these are the things that we have. It's like if I go into an In and Out, I'm not completely blown away by going into a new In and Out. Like they're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. Like I don't go into an In and Out and I'm totally confused. I look at a menu and I'm just like, yeah, I'll get a double double.
see, but
Like,
I think now
you know,
that
I
you
know.
brought In and Out up, I feel like if you walked in and didn't know, this is like if you walked in and didn't know their secret, quote unquote, secret menu. I feel
But did they
like
not? But I mean, I wouldn't have been ordering anything monster style or a grilled cheese
no, but you
sandwich.
could have
But I
been
mean,
like, "Can I
I
have?
still
Do
would
you
have been
guys
ordering.
make a
He
grilled
ordered
cheese sandwich?"
burgers and a fucking fries and a soda.
I
Like
know, like onion
that's
rings, no
that's not so
pickles.
fucking preposterous. Yeah, that's not so fucking insane that like you would sit there and just be like, you know, I don't know, like I don't know. I was a little bit frustrated by
It
that,
was weird,
but
but I loved it because it introduced Skeeter's kind of personality and style, and also just kind of the weirdness of this world. Where, like, yeah, Doug basically walks up and he's just like, "I need 4 burgers, one with no pickles, one with onions, and then 4 chocolate shakes." And she's like, "I have no idea what you're saying. Like, I
like
don't understand a
also,
word you're
who
saying."
you work at a fast food restaurant, bitch?
Right.
How the fuck do you not understand
It's
what the
just
hell that
Sean
means?
just got so aggressive right now over this
I
honker
did.
burger
I just
chick.
got really angry about that. Like it was like one of those scenes where I was just like you are a customer service representative for the Hogger Burger. Like if somebody was there, I would have at least attempted to help them through the process of ordering
That would
something.
have been great if
And,
Doug was just like, "I need to speak to your manager."
yeah,
Just like grown up Doug.
I feel like if Doug ever went like insane sociopath and just shot up the
Oh,
town,
she's the
that's
first
like
one.
where he would
She's the
start.
first one to go. Yeah, it's
First
like
fucking
falling
one.
down. Yeah, she's just right to the honker burger.
Just defense. So just
But yeah,
ugh.
okay. So back to Skeeter. How does he introduce himself to Doug then? Because
Skeeter.
Doug's having a real moment right now.
Right. So Skeeter comes to the
Right.
rescue and assists him in the ordering process, and orders the proper burgers, fries, and shakes that he needs from
Correct.
said honker burger.
Correct. With the
So,
proper nomenclature. Yeah.
but the proper, yes,
And then
exactly.
she's like,
So I
"Oh,
mean,
now
like,
I know what you're saying, crazy people."
asshole.
Yeah, she's the worst. But I mean, that's a great kind of meet cute because it's like he just comes up, he's just helping a dude out, and then they're like,
You say meat? You say meat cute?
meet cute. It is
Meat
called a
cute?
meet cute. If you watch any romantic comedy, whenever the lead actor and actress in the film have their first meeting, it is called a meet cute.
I heard meat as in like
MEAT.
MEAT,
Yeah.
like because they were ordering
Well, I
hamburgers.
maybe tried to slip that pun in there, but it doesn't work when it's only audio and not
I
written
mean, you
down.
did it. You did it.
Yeah, I did it, guys.
You did it,
I
guys.
did the puns. Meet
So,
cute.
but yeah, I mean, like it shows Skeeter's willingness to really kind of embrace an
Yeah,
outsider
and
and
just his
make him feel
friendliness and his
comfortable.
character, and he's not like he doesn't take himself too seriously, and he's not shy at all. But he's also like a
I don't
good-natured
understand.
guy. Yeah,
I don't understand why Skeeter isn't on like the Welcome to Bluffington.
yeah, just the big
Uh,
sign up
like
front.
yeah, like I don't understand why he's not a part of the welcoming party because like
Oh yeah.
Mr. Dink,
Oh my God, we need to
Mr.
talk about
Dink,
that.
Doug's
Yeah.
neighbor. Yeah,
Well,
we're
hold on.
getting
Can we go
into it.
back to the sign first? Because I love the fact that
Oh,
as you
do it,
drive
do it.
past the sign, it has like a spinning counter on it that tells you the population. So as the car
Yes,
of, did they count Porkchop or not?
I don't
I don't
know.
think they did. But I just love that there's like a big brother eye in the sky that's watching and knows when you're coming to town, and it just like automatically rolls over. That was pretty funny. But yeah, Mr. Dink.
Yeah.
Mr. Dink is also one of my favorites, but not the top.
So Mr. Dink is the name. Really, Mr. Dink was your favorite?
No, I just like his
Oh
little laugh.
boy.
Hello,
Okay.
Douglas.
Uh,
Very expensive.
I wrote down my note for Mr. Dink was what a jerk.
Really? You think he's a jerk?
He's the guy that would pose a question to you where you would answer that question 100%
Yeah.
correct, and then Mr. Dink would change the fucking question and tell you that you were wrong every time. Like he seemed like the most boastful because
Oh yeah.
very expensive.
Very
Like
expensive. Yeah.
what a fucking like braggart dick. Like just shut up. Like I'm not asking to borrow your crap. I don't need to know how much you spent on it. Like I don't give a shit.
I feel like he's just kind of that like nosy neighbor that always tries to one up you, even though he's the only one playing that game. Like if you get a new
I
car,
want
he
to.
goes out and buys like three, and you're just like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, I like. I'm wondering if, like, in the Disney years, if like Tippy, his wife, had just decided that she had it and just fucking
He
left
just
his
murdered. No, I
annoying
think she
ass.
just
Yeah,
murdered him in his
just
sleep.
murdered.
Just spilled his purple blood everywhere.
It's like
They
Tippy just
both
wearing
have
a
like a
Mr. Dink
circulation
mask over her
problem.
face.
Oh Lord, she's just wearing a Mr.
Yeah.
Dink suit, walking around.
God. I Douglas. I will say the funny thing was that I think it was episode I don't know. I think it was episode 3.
Mhm.
Um,
Where he's jogging?
yeah, where he's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
jogging. He's got like it looks like he's got like the first wearable technology on
But
him.
it's like a satellite dish and like a control
Yeah.
panel. And,
It's like
snack
it's like the
dispenser.
first Fitbit that like
Oh
is
yeah,
over his entire body
yeah.
and like reading all of his like biometric readouts, for the sake of his health and safety. And it's just like, and you just see Tippy over on the side just rolling her eyes like for days, because she is not interested in this shit at all. And I don't blame her. I wasn't either.
We should have an episode that's just dedicated to like cartoon neighbors. Because now that I'm just thinking about like the Nicktoons, there are a lot of hilarious neighbors. The ones from
There are a
Rocko's
lot
Modern
of
Life, the Toads,
uh, there are a lot of cartoon neighbors,
cartoon
so
neighbors. Yeah, good
I
stuff.
definitely think it merits further investigation,
Yeah,
David.
further investigation. We'll do a spin-off series. Hey, cartoon neighbors. Oh man.
Um, So
No, dude,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
just
Finish up,
I
Mr.
mean
Dinks.
we have the dinks,
Yeah.
we kind of have been jumping in and out of
Yeah, but I think that's
like
fine because
episodes and characters. Yeah, I mean because they really kind of work in and out. The one big character that we haven't talked about yet that I think is like essential is that we really haven't gotten that much into Porkchop.
there we go. That's my favorite. He's my favorite.
So Porkchop was your favorite.
He's my
Porkchop was
absolute
my
favorite.
favorite.
There you go.
Porkchop was my favorite as well.
Hands
So
down favorite,
and
everyone.
it's not just because he was a
You
dog.
love dogs, though.
I love dogs. Shut up. You love dogs
I
too.
do love dogs,
Uh,
especially one's named Porkchop.
especially ones named Porkchop. Like I I did get a little bit weirded out during the one episode called it was episode 3. It was the first half called Doug's Dog Date.
Yeah, a little creepy.
Uh, there was a little bit of like a really strange, overbearing dependency that Doug has on Porkchop. And
Yeah.
it also it blurred the line between like it's an unhealthy relationship when both are not 100% invested in what's going
Yeah, I thought
on.
you were gonna say that Porkchop and his lady dog friend got a little sexy. I thought that's where you were going with it.
I don't know. I mean, like they definitely got a little bit
That
sexy.
that lady
Like
dog was a real bitch, though. I'll
that
tell you
lady. I
what.
mean,
You like
I
that?
know haters. I did. I love
Dog
that. That was a
puns.
good dog pun, bud.
Dog puns.
But like it really was like it just there were moments where like Doug for me blurred the line in that instance of whether or not he considered Porkchop to be an actual human
Oh, he
being
super did. He was like obsessed at one point.
or whether or not he's like the family pet. Because like you watching the show, like you get a very distinct impression that like I mean, like, obviously, if you have any animal, if you
Right.
have any pet, it is a member of your family,
Right.
and you love it as such. But like the level of I guess just the pedestal that Doug puts Porkchop on at some moments is unhealthy.
Well, let me come at this from another angle, though, because Porkchop is not just like, so he's not like Santa's little helper in The Simpsons. He is, anthropomorphized. He puts on clothes. He lives in an igloo. He dresses up as like, with Doug's imagination. He's like his sidekick. He's his buddy. He's
Yeah,
his best friend. He goes back and forth. Doug will say to Skeeter, he'll be like, Porkchop's my best friend. And he's like, well, my non-human best friend. And then to Porkchop, he'll be like, Skeeter's
yeah,
my best friend. Well, my human best friend. So it's like
right.
he's got Porkchop and Skeeter. And Porkchop, he's pretty badass. Like, he helps him, make fun of Roger, or he helps him out in different situations. So the one time that Porkchop kind of like wants to run off and do his own thing, yeah, I can understand why Doug's upset. Now, not to the point where he becomes creepily obsessed and is like turning down dates with actual human girls to go
Yeah.
watch what his dog's doing. That was a little creepy. But you can understand that level of care because these guys are like best friends, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. So I can see that. But I love
And,
Porkchop too.
and yeah, and I mean, just like as you said, like he really gets involved in Doug's life and his fantasies
Right.
because they're like when Doug later on you find out that Doug has a superhero
Yes. Oh, how do we
character.
not talk about that?
I know, but like because he's not in the first couple
Yeah, it
episodes.
takes a while for
Uh,
like and that's the stuff that I remember. So I remember the
yeah,
superhero, and then I remember the rock band, which I'm sure we'll mention. But
yeah, the Beats.
yes,
And so they, which is like the Beatles. It's like their rip off.
yeah, and they're
Um,
great, and everybody loves
yeah,
beats in this town. By the way, Bluffington is like huge on beats.
yeah. There's some really odd beat references
Yeah, it's a little
throughout
strange,
this.
but it's
I
fun.
mean, I don't know. I like beats just as much as everybody else,
Hmm.
but the level of enthusiasm for this root vegetable was perplexing.
I feel like there's a whole history of Bluffington related to beats.
Yeah,
Like there's probably a beat famine of
based on like
'78 and
murder and beats,
murder and beats,
murder and beats,
murder beats.
murder beats.
Oh boy, but yeah, dude, love
So,
Porkchop. He's probably my favorite.
um, yeah, I mean, like when
Yeah, so
when
that's
Quailman
Doug's
comes
alter
to
ego.
fruition,
Right.
yes, there's also Quail Dog.
Yes, of course.
So I mean, like they involve each other. Like there's no Quail Skeeter. It's just like Quail Dog and Quail Man.
Yeah, and
Like
Doug's got these other. So he's got these other kind of like alter egos. Like, oh my God, what was his? The one where he goes on the lam. Was it
oh
Jack Bandit?
there's
Wanna.
yeah Jack Bandit I
Yeah, he like
think.
pencils on this like creepy thin mustache, and he's like, "You'll never catch Jack Bandit, wanna." And it's just he just has this imagination that just kind of runs crazy, and he makes up his own characters that nobody else can see, but he kind of lives in that world. And I think Quail Man is probably what people remember most. I remember Pork Chop, Quail Man, and the Beats, and I can probably still remember Doug's songs and the Beat songs.
So I mean, like he had a couple. So I mean, like he had Quailman,
Right.
he had Smash Adams was like his 007 James Bond
Right.
character.
Didn't he have like an Indiana
Uh,
Jones one?
it was Race Canyon.
Oh, of course it was. Dash and Pepper.
Durango Doug was his cowboy persona,
Okay.
and his master of disguise was the Chameleon.
Oh boy, the chameleon. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
but
Quail Man wins out of all those.
Quailman was the best. Smash Adams is pretty good
Smash
too. I
Adams is good.
remember.
Race Cannon, actually, they're all pretty good. Jack
Yeah,
Bandit, they're all pretty good. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that was like the first. That was in episode 2, and it was really like the first foray into some of Doug's his fantasies. It's sort of the foreshadowing that you would see is
Oh yeah.
like Doug's fantasies. So yeah,
Do you
it was
remember
cool.
Quail Man's outfit, just to give listeners who maybe
Oh
are
my
not
god.
familiar with it? So you mentioned Doug's normal attire is white t-shirt, sweater vest,
Yes,
green
yes.
sweater vest, and then khaki cargo pants and big honky white shoes.
So
What is Quail Man's attire?
Quailman's attire is to wear a pair of white like
Briefs.
underwear, white brief underwear on the outside of your shorts.
Right. Check.
You're wearing like on your sweater vest you put a red Q.
Got it.
You wear a red towel, a red bath towel as a cape,
Correct.
and a signature belt with sort of like a little flourish on the top of it on your head.
Yeah.
And that was Quailman.
You're
Like,
Quail Man.
there was no mystery or disguise. It was just like,
No,
oh yeah,
your face is just
Quail-
right
he's
out
Quail
there
Man
with
now.
your giant
Yeah.
nose. You're just hanging out there, Quail Man, and your dog looks exactly like Pork Chop. Quail Man.
Well, actually, Porkchop wore like
Did he have a
sort of like
mask on or something?
he had like an eye mask
Yeah,
over
yeah,
top
He
of
had like
it.
the Lone Ranger mask or something, right?
Like, Doug gave zero fucks.
He wore his
Zero
underwear
fucks funny.
outside his pants. I loved it.
Yeah. Boy.
Yeah, Doug does a lot of dress up. Like there's a scene where he goes to the dance and he's dressed as a slug and all kinds of
Yeah.
fun stuff happens. But yeah, it's fun, man. I mean, do you have anything
So
else from Doug before
well,
we wrap this up here?
Well, I mean, I kind of just wanted to ask you, like,
Sure.
the big thing for me watching this, and having watched this as a kid, and now watching this as an adult, or arguably an adult, like, is there anybody that you really identified? I mean, a lot of the show was like a very much of a cross section, or like an amalgamate of like a lot of the different people that that Jenkins had met throughout his life,
Right.
that Jim had influences with, and so I kind of feel like a lot of those were like bubbled and distilled into this show. And
Yeah.
so like watching it, was there anybody that you were like, oh my god, that was me?
Oh, that was me? Like anyone I personally identified with?
Yeah, somebody that you personally identified with.
Oh man. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I saw sort of just like the different characteristics of each of the different characters in
Okay.
different people. You know, I probably saw a lot of Doug in myself, but then not really, because I wasn't really like duped by people. I wasn't really picked on. Obviously, I had high school crushes and stuff that never came to fruition or whatever everybody does. I do feel like Patti Mayonnaise probably end up being a lesbian. Just gonna throw that
Okay.
out there. She's very into the sports and had kind of that husky voice thing going on.
I mean, you can't. I mean, she was voiced by Constance Schulman,
Okay.
who she is Yoga Jones in Orange Is the New Black.
Yoga Jones.
Um,
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll take that back. But isn't she a lesbian on the show? I can't remember.
I mean, they're in a women's prison. No, actually, I don't think she is in the
Interesting.
show.
Maybe I
She's
have
one
to
of the
take
few
that one back
characters.
then.
But she is that her voice is so distinct and wonderful that when I started watching Orange Is the New Black, I was like, yes, you are fucking fantastic.
You
Like,
are Patti Mayonnaise.
You are fucking Patti Mayonnaise. And like, I was so excited for her to be on that show. It's just she's a wonderful voice actress.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful actress as well.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna agree to disagree with you on the whole lesbian thing. I think just because, I mean, like the husky voice, like and sports. I don't think that. I mean, that's not
Wait,
indicative.
what do you
of
mean
being a
that
lesbian.
stereotypes aren't always 100% true? Is that what you're trying to
Stereotypes
tell
are.
me?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you,
You
dude.
just blew my mind.
I know. I'm sorry.
I don't know anything anymore.
I'm very, very sorry, but yeah, I mean, she is athletic and strong, and she's also very feminine at the same time. So I
Mhm.
think I think in terms of like setting like a good solid role model, for women watching this show, sort of like how Pepper Ann did. Like,
Yeah.
it was very, like, it was a very solid female to have in a show for
Definitely.
this
Yeah.
age.
I think also that Patty and her family, they probably winter in the tropics because she's always very well tanned.
She's super tan.
Super
She's
tanned.
super tan.
But yeah, I liked it though because she wasn't just like obviously the object of Doug's crush, but she was super popular with everybody else in school too. So everybody kind of wanted to be friends or be in a relationship with Patti Mayonnaise. But she
Yeah.
wasn't like a mean girl. She wasn't a your typical kind of like even attractive girl
She
because
was she
this
was kind she was kind-hearted.
she was
Like
very kind hearted to everybody. She's very friendly to everybody. She was just nice all around,
right.
but like socially active and stuff. So that was it was a nice kind of something different.
I almost didn't
Something
hear
different.
socially active. I heard sexually active,
She was
and I was
sexually
like,
active. Everybody
"Whoa,
loved her.
ooh boy,
Literally.
ugh,
Yeah. Oof.
God."
On
I'm
that note,
sorry. Yeah, Constance Schulman, if you are listening to this, you are a wonderful human being, and we love you.
thanks for
So
listening too.
just please keep being amazing, and don't listen to Dave.
No, that that advice goes for everyone. Don't listen to me. I just learned that stereotypes aren't real. I
What?
know. My world is ended.
Crazy.
Do you recommend
Bananas.
Doug for people?
I do. There were one of the big things that I noticed is that there were like some like, maybe it was because it was like the pilot or the first couple episodes, but there were some like pacing issues that I
Yeah, it
had
dragged a little
kind
bit.
of overall. Like yeah, there was a lot of drag, and I wasn't getting as into it as I wanted to.
Yeah, same.
But I will say that by maybe like the third episode, like a little bit of the animation changed
Hmm.
between episode one, two, and three. So if you kind of want to see some of the growth, the evolution of sort of the animation of Doug Funny, it occurs within those first three episodes. And so I was excited to kind of get to that point. And I think I'll definitely, now that it's on Amazon Prime, I will definitely probably sit down and watch more Doug now that I know it's available. When Dave, when you messaged me
Hmm.
and said that it's
Oh, I was so
available for
excited.
like, I'm so pumped for this. Like, I'm so glad that this is here. Like, this is
Yeah,
fantastic.
it's fun. It's nice to go back and visit. And honestly, yeah, I'll recommend it too because it holds up. I mean, you're not going to go back and actually learn anything new. There wasn't probably a lot that you missed, um, but it does hold up. It drags a little bit, so like I would recommend watching the first episode and maybe like half of another one to see if you still really want to get into it. But these
Yeah,
things you can just watch a half at a time, and that 10-15 minutes is just enough.
yeah,
So I mean, maybe don't marathon it unless you're really into it and want to check it out. But it still holds up surprisingly well. So yeah, I'd recommend
yeah.
this one too.
I will say there's a funny like some of the names for the episodes. Like I know like in season one there is an episode called Doug gets his ears lowered,
Okay,
and
that
like that like
old timey talk.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah getting your ears lowered is like an idiom for getting a haircut. And so like it was very funny because I know that in my life I have used that
Heck yeah.
phrase. I'm like I'm going to get my ears lowered, and people look at me like I'm
Well,
insane.
it's because it's old timey, and if you didn't
Uh,
have like parents or grandparents around that actually used it, or like go to an old timey barbershop, then yeah, you would
yeah,
be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But yeah, I like that.
right.
I like that.
But yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, check it out, Amazon Prime, where we're gonna be for the next like 4 weeks, because everything's there. Nicktoons.
Yay!
Speaking of the next 4 weeks, Sean, what do you have coming up that you want to share with the viewers
Uh,
over the next month or so?
Oh man, where am I going to be?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be performing for the San Diego Improv
Oh, that's right.
Festival. I'm going to be performing. I think it's the 8:30 or 9 o'clock show on February 20th.
Ooh,
You can find more information. It's sdimprovfestival.com.
excellent. Anything local going on in the next few weeks? Or are you guys taking a bit of a break?
We're doing we're figuring out our schedule. But we will have a bunch of shows in February, and then we'll have a lot of shows in March and April.
Cool. Well, now that
So
the new year is upon us, guess what? There's a bunch of TV shows coming back from their winter breaks and
yeah,
hiatus.
what are you reviewing, Dave?
Oh, buddy, here it comes. I got Gotham on tap. I got The Flash,
Yes.
Arrow,
Oh,
Walking Dead,
good.
and Constantine for however long NBC lets it run on the air. I
Oh,
know, it's sad. But yeah, they got their 13 episodes in. I don't know how it's going to do, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun.
I love
But
it.
yeah, so I've got all those recaps and reviews over at collider.com. So you can check them out there each and every week. Gotham starts back up again this week, and then they'll start rolling in over the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out over there and come check them out, take a read, and let me know what you think. That's about it for me, though. Any other plugs for you, buddy?
I don't know, Dave. Where can we find you on the
Oh,
internet?
me? You can find me on the Twitter at Dr. ClawMD. How about yourself, sir?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Sean Paul
He's always
Ellis.
got to one up me. I don't understand the Instagrams or the Vines or the
Oh, don't
Snapchats or the
don't worry
any
about
of
it.
that stuff.
Don't worry about it, Grandpa.
Oh boy.
You can find more about the show at Saturday Morning dot or
Get it
SaturdayMorningCartoons.com.
right.
That's morning with a
There it is.
U. You can find us on Tumblr at SaturdayMorningCartoons.tumblr.com. You can follow us on Twitter. It's MorningTunes. And we've been pushing stuff
Yeah, we
out
took
there a
a
little.
we took a bit of a break over the holidays. We're getting back to it.
Yeah.
We're getting back
We're getting
to
back
it.
in the
Give
swing
us a
of things.
break, guys. Stop yelling at us. Jeez.
Yeah,
Give us a
God.
second.
And you can find us by searching Saturday Morning Cartoons on iTunes and Stitcher.
That was very well done, sir. Look at all those plugs.
Yeah,
Good
I know.
times.
I'm trying.
Hey, buddy, guess
Uh,
what we're talking about next week? Since I think we've already told people, but that's fine if you're still paying attention.
I think so too. What are we watching next
Well,
week,
we're going
Dave?
to continue our New Year's Nicktoons with Rugrats.
Yeah,
I'm weirdly looking forward to this just because I don't remember how twisted the show was.
this show is a little bit weird.
It's
So
real
I'm
strange,
yeah, I know.
but I think it'll be fun. I
I
mean,
don't know why I said that with like a sigh. I'm actually, I loved Rugrats, and so I remember watching this very fondly. I feel like this is one of those shows that's sort of like Doug suffered from the fact that like they just didn't kill it over
yeah,
after
I
like
mean,
the
this
four
went for
seasons. Like
this was probably their
this
most
this went
successful one,
on,
right?
this went on
160
forever.
some, 170 episodes. I think it's second
Jeez,
only to SpongeBob from the actual original Nicktoons.
God.
And they had multiple movies. They had,
Uh,
lots of
they
stuff.
do like they do like the grown up years of
Yeah,
like
they had the
Tommy
multiple
Pickles.
generations, which that
Oh
I don't know.
man.
We probably won't watch those, fellas. But we'll watch some of the earlier ones. I do want to try to
Yeah.
sneak a Reptar episode in if we can. I love
Yes.
Reptar, so
Love
we're gonna
Reptar.
see if we can get him in there. If you guys have any suggestions of like favorite episodes or favorite moments or anything you want us to cover, just give us a shout out and let us know, and we will do our best to cover that. Just got to let us know ahead of time. So yeah, please do. We'll see what we can do.
Awesome.
Anything else?
Oh no, that's it, David. I'm
Excellent.
good.
Well, thank you guys very much for listening to the first episode of Saturday Morning Cartoons in the year 2015. I did not queue up Sean's outro, so if you want to, do you want to do a new outro in like Mr. Dink's voice or something? I don't know. What do you got? Put you on the spot.
Oh yeah, I guess we could do David, Sean. Very expensive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dink. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll talk to you next time.